to Planning and Zoning, March 1st. It is now 9 o'clock. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Carter.
Present.
Mr. Doris. Mr. Harris.
Present.
Dr. Raines is absent. Mr. Sutton is absent. Mr. Taylor is absent, and Mr. Ventura.
Yes, here. Welcome, Mr. Ventura.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Agreeable to see you as always.
What's that?
Agreeable to see you as always.
Okay, Mr. White, business, let's see what first. Let's do Pledge of Allegiance first. Let's do it in right order. Everybody stand, face the flag to your left, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, next item, approval of the December 7th, 2011 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Mr. Carter moves. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Doris, approved without amendment. Next item, let me get my right page here.
Next item is the business requiring board action, which brings us into the quasi-judicial section of your agenda, which there are two items listed for proposed rezonings. I'd like to move on to the legislative matters first, because that is a proposed comp plan that complements the rezoning. So public hearing 2011-32 is a small-scale amendment for a 2.1 acre parcel, and the corresponding rezoning request is the first quasi-judicial item, public hearing 2010-29. Before you hear the rezoning, we need to hear the small-scale comp plan amendment, because depending on what action you all take there will be determinative of your vote for 2010-29. So the first and only legislative item this morning for your consideration is a proposed small-scale future land use map amendment for a 2.1 acre parcel of property located approximately south of Casille House subdivision, west of the Homestead extension of the Florida Turnpike, and east of 152nd Avenue. The applicant is requesting a change from low-density residential use to light commercial use.
Mr. Cordino, report, please.
Yes, sir. Again, as James had stated, the applicant's requesting a change from to light commercial use. The site's currently vacant. It's got no significant vegetation on it or any structures. It's currently got no access of any way to the public roadway. The applicant's in the purchasing an adjacent piece of land that will provide that access and putting the two parcels together. We've got a future land use designation right now of low-density residential and a zoning of general use. So the applicants filed this rezoning, which we'll get to under the later district. The low-density residential district is a residential designation to implement a state and 1 acre, one family residential development. The light commercial use designation permits hotels, offices, retail, and other businesses which have insignificant nuisance or negative visual characteristics and generate not too much truck traffic, generally require frontage locations on major roadways. And this parcel is strategically located in just such a position to make that a good fit. We've looked at this and would recommend approval of the amendment to light commercial use. That's all I've got.
Okay. Any questions from the board for development services? It looks pretty straightforward. I drive by that all the time and see that little triangular piece there, and to me it doesn't make any other sense than make that commercial, particularly now that you've got the pavilion across the street. And how anybody would want to put residential along that turnpike would be insane. But they do that. Then they complain and they put up walls after they build houses. But any no other questions? The applicant, would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Jason Bass, 2927 Augusta Circle, representing Williams Agricultural Enterprises today, but I also have a stake in this project. And we are looking to do probably a hotel there with an out parcel, maybe for bringing a new restaurant into town. So it'll generate good revenue for the city and create jobs as well.
Let's note for the record that doctor is in the house.
Right.
Good morning, doctor. Good morning. I see. Look at the drawing, parcel 1. Have you bought a piece of that, or that's just that one triangle?
That triangle actually, Tim Williams had to purchase that a number of years ago. The previous owner of that property owned the property where the movie theater and Portofino Plaza, where Chili's and all that is, and the council, well, back then, they really wanted that development there, and the gentleman said, "You're buying this as well. If you want that, you got to buy this." And it was landlocked by the turnpike back in the 70s when the Homestead extension came through, and it was an eminent domain deal where it had a limited access easement around it. The man retained the property, but really had no legal access to it. So for the past 2 years, I've been going through the motions with the Turnpike Enterprise to have them surplus the adjacent property, but right there that's contiguous to us. You can see it's parcel 3 on the survey that's being surplus to us that we were buying from the Turnpike Authority, which will also extinguish the limited access line and then add to our parcel to give us about 3.5 acres there, which will be, a very good project for us and for the city.
If we look, there's been a lot of discussion over the last 10 years about trying to get the new exit ramp off the turnpike, on the north side of Campbell. Now, if that would ever happen, that would help your site as far as getting to it, rather than...
Definitely. It's in the plan, and we didn't have any adverse effect on their plans. I actually have the drawings for what they're doing, what they're planning to do. They don't have the money to do it right now, but they're putting the northbound ramp, that's in the process of coming from westbound, like from the hospital to get on to northbound on the turnpike. They are getting ready to do that project, which is going to be great, so you don't have to, people don't have to take that left to get across to 8th Street right there. That's a death trap.
They cleared that whole parcel there.
Yeah.
And that was at the request of Hampton Inn and Marriott. They cleaned that up.
Right. Yeah. No, they cleaned it up, but they're also, which is good because it was getting bad, so isolated. It looks better. But they're going to move forward, I think, the next year to put that northbound ramp, and then the southbound, the exit ramp will be. It's probably going to be 5 to 10 years out before they look to do that. Now it's funding and.
As far as your acreage, your 2 acres, is that enough land for a hotel and parking?
When we assemble it with the property that we're getting from the Turnpike Enterprise, it's 3.45.
3.45.
Both of them together. Yeah. So it's enough for a hotel and also an out parcel for a restaurant. I talked to Jimmy Flanagan the other day because they had showed some interest in coming in, but he doesn't want to do it right now. But we have some other interested parties as far as restaurants. Maybe even we're entertaining Lags from Hooters. So I told him the only way he's coming down here is if I get to.
Any suggestions on who we go in there? Any suggestions on who we go in there? La Quinta?
Probably an extended stay.
Extended stay?
Yeah, maybe Larry's got the Residence Inn, but I mean, what is the Courtyard Marriott? But maybe a Residence Inn.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Or a Hyatt House, possibly.
Okay. We have the Value Place, which is kitty corner. Will be kitty corner from you.
We'll be higher end.
Did you know in Florida City, next to Cracker Barrel?
Yeah,
the hotels are building a home suite, so we're going to have 2 or 3 extended stay in the area before long.
Yeah, the gentleman that we're engaged with right now, he's one of the largest hotel developers in the nation. He's got upwards of 300 hotels. He owns the Roosevelt and the Waldorf Astoria in Louisiana. He's a big boy. It'd be good to have him come to town.
Any questions for the applicant, Dr. Reed?
In your due diligence, do you know what the occupancy rate is of the Hampton Inn?
I don't know. Evidently, just in the casual conversations I've had with the owner once or twice and hearing, I mean, it's up, 100% booked.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he wouldn't be building the one next door if it wasn't. And my understanding is that he's already looking to sell the one that he's building next door. So it's a very good, you know, it's a high traffic area, very high occupancy. Between the hospital and now FP&L, a lot of those guys that are down here even for the short term are staying in hotels. There'll be guys down here staying in a hotel for a year at a time, 2 years, you know. It's hard for, I talked to some of the guys out of the golf course, they're looking for a place to rent. There's a lot of people here.
If you look at the Hampton Inn, it has a certain number of rooms. If you look at the Marriott, which is going up right next to it, it's going to be smaller. How does yours compare in numbers of rooms, do you know?
Good morning. We're at, I don't know in comparison to them, but I know we're looking at 108 rooms, but our rooms are 500 square feet each. They're big, you know, I mean, they're borderline efficiencies, yeah. You know, they got little kitchenettes in them and everything.
Well, just to take Dr. Raines, we have over 1,000 guys out at FP&L at a shutdown. There, last week, and we work at the visitor center, people would come in looking for housing. You couldn't get a room from Miami to El Mirada. All the hotels were booked. There is not a rental anywhere. And these guys are having to drive 150 miles round trip because they didn't know the place to stay in the area. We're going to have 4,000 to 5,000 of these guys building the 2 new nukes for the next 10, 15 years. You know, so we're going to have some exciting stuff going on here. The air base is bringing in 400 active military, plus all their support, plus all their family. You know, I think you're right. Timing-wise, we got NASCAR here in the fall. You know, they got to go way up to Miami to come down to the races. So it makes sense to me. Any further comments for the applicant?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would just like to point out to you that that the request is for light commercial use. If you all decide to change or recommend to modify to light commercial use, the zoning districts that implement the light conditional use flume category are your business districts, B1, B1A, which is restricted, B1 or B2. The applicant's requesting B2, which is the most intense zoning district on the property that is allowed, which would allow for a hotel. However, although the applicant is proposing a hotel and is also in negotiations with the Florida Turnpike for the adjacent parcel, there's no guarantee that that transaction is going to go through. And at the end of the day, there's no guarantee that a hotel will be built on that site. So when you look at this and you take into consideration, you need to take into consideration all of those types of commercial uses that could be allowed within that B2 district.
James, the hotel is allowed under B1, yes? Is that allowable use under B1? I think so. Because we're not going for B2 for gas stations or anything like that. We're just only going for B1.
I stand corrected, B1.
Yeah, and that's actually, again, we're just approving the, not to what's going on other than the classification.
Right, right. You have no site plan to look at. There's no guarantee at this point. All you're doing is making a legislative decision to modify from low-density residential to light commercial use.
There could be any of these on B1. They could even put in a bowling alley, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And also, just I don't think y'all have a future land use map in front of you, and I don't know if y'all are very familiar with it in that area, but it's the only little triangle piece in that whole section that's not under light commercial use.
Yeah.
And it actually just was an oversight a number of years ago when they were in doing the comp plan.
That actually should have just gone, when they redid the pavilion, the property should have just gone right to the turnpike and incorporated that.
It was actually an oversight in 2005 or 7 when the comp plan was being changed.
So, small scale amendment. Small scale versus large, is it?
Small scale 5 acres. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. A small scale just means that it's a smaller acreage. It's under 20 acres.
So we don't go to the state as far as amendments?
You still go.
It
Yeah.
still goes?
Still goes. It's a different process, but for your purposes, the process is you all make a recommendation to council, council votes on it, and then we send it to the state. It's not the formal review process that a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment goes throughout the state. It's a much more expedited review, and generally deference is given to the local government's decision on the small-scale amendment.
Okay, any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Bass. We appreciate it.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Looking at the map, then track C is B2, zone B2 currently, is that true?
I don't have the survey in front of me, so.
So directly to the west, across the street?
Directly to the west across the, in GDR, in the Homestead Pavilion?
That's
Yes, sir.
Pavilion.
You're talking about track C.
Track C on the survey, which
Yeah, that's Homestead Pavilion.
corresponds with the map as the vacant property directly across the street,
Track C is the Homestead Pavilion property?
is part of, okay.
Right.
Oh,
That's not part, they're only doing the area east.
okay, but that's currently zone B2. Is that
Correct.
true? Okay, that was the question.
B1, I think.
I'm not sure it's B1 or B2, but it's all the Homestead Pavilion commercial shopping center.
Oh, okay, because on here it says B2 on this.
Then it's B2.
It's on there, it's B2.
And we're asking for a lower
Or B1.
intensity, yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the small-scale amendment?
I'll make a motion to approve the small-scale amendment as presented.
Dr. Raines makes a motion. Do I have a second for that?
For purposes of the record, can you open the public hearing and close the public hearing?
Okay, I'm sorry. Open the public hearing. Anyone from the public like to make a comment? No hearing none, seeing none, I close it to public comment. Now, Dr. Raines has made a motion to approve the small-scale amendment. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Is there a second? Roll call, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Dr. Raines?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton is absent. Mr. Taylor is absent. Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Doris? Chairman Powell?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You ought to have Mr. Williams come back once in a while. I haven't seen him in 10 years.
I'll try to get him down here. He's got a maid up there, man.
It seems to me that we talked about this parcel once before in light of putting a macaroni grill in there.
I don't remember that one.
Well, maybe it was
a good idea.
It had been a long time, or even a long, longer than...
We could work on that, too.
But we talked about that, and then Macaroni Grill, I think, is out of business.
The Hooters. Yeah. I'm talking to Wags. I told him Hooters. I said the only way he's coming down, I'm in charge of hiring.
All right, thank you very much, and let's, the next item, please.
So that concludes your legislative matters. Moving on to your quasi-judicial matters, please be advised the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon any of these items, please indicate the item number you would like to address when the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant staff have made their presentations on each item. Swearing in, all testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to either be cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the board to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization, and further details of the quasi-judicial procedure may be obtained from the clerk. In accordance with Code Section 2-591, any lobbyist must register before addressing the board on any of the following items. At this time, board members must disclose any ex parte communications they've had concerning any of the following items on this morning's agenda.
No, we're good. Good.
Hearing none, at this time, the clerk will swear in any persons who wish to testify on any of the following items.
Anyone wishing to speak, please stand. If you're not the owner or the principal, then you need to register as a lobbyist with the city clerk before you can speak before the board. If you're going to speak, please sign the book in the back if you haven't already, and I will begin swearing in at this time. Please raise your hand and repeat after me. I state your name, hereby swear or affirm that the information I present shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Thank you. You may be seated.
Your first item is the companion piece to the Flume Amendment. This is the applicant is requesting a rezoning of an approximately 2.18 acre parcel from G general use to B1 restricted retail commercial. The property is located south of the Castile Heights subdivision, west of the Homestead extension of the Florida Turnpike, and east of 152nd Avenue. Again, this is a request for rezoning from general use to B1 restricted retail commercial.
Mr. Cordino.
Yes, sir. As James stated, we're trying to change from general use to B1. General use is an unclassified district, and it's unzoned, which really is a holding category for a property as it comes into the city. And when it's in the G district, no construction permits can be issued on the property until it's rezoned, and the rezoning has to be compatible with the comprehensive plan, our goals and objectives. We've just re-land use to the LCU, and that designation in the future land use map is implemented by B1A, B1, or B2 zoning districts. So what we're going to in B1 is compatible with what we've done just in the item before us regarding the land use, and from a physical impact, it allows buildings up to 6 stories or 70 feet in height. So that's all I've got.
Any questions for Mr. Cordino from the board? I'm just wondering, actually, all we're really doing is rezoning to a B1 classification, and I don't see why you even have to say for hotel use. You know, you can put anything B1 on it. So why would the motion just be to rezone it to a B1 without that caveat that it's going to be a hotel site? You said there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So our motion would be approve the zoning to B1 without any caveat on what's going to go there, since a number of things could go there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it gives you
Restaurants, yeah.
flexibility that way. And is that any questions more for the applicant? Anything else we basically discussed in the legislative part? Any further comment, Mr. Bass?
No? Just
Well,
if there's any questions I can answer for you?
Tell Mr. Williams we miss him, and thanks a lot for keeping his interest down here in Homestead.
Definitely.
With that, public hearing. I'll open up to the public. Any comment from the public? Hearing none, seeing none, close it to public hearing. Okay, next item. Do I have a motion to approve it as listed, or should we amend it to just say from general use to a B1? Would that be?
I recommend from general use to B1, mainly because whatever B1 is going to entail will probably be better than a vacant lot. So I'm in favor of it.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Harris. Thank you. Madam Secretary?
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Dr. Raines?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton is absent. Mr. Taylor is absent. Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Doris? Chairman Powell?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Mr. Bass.
Thank you, gentlemen.
See you out on the golf course. Bring plenty of beer with you today. Next item, please.
Yes, moving on to your last and final item for consideration this morning. This is public hearing 2012-04. This is a request by the city CRA to rezone parcel, approximately 2.39 acre parcel from G general use to B2 retail commercial district. The property is bounded by North Flagler Avenue, East Maury Drive, and the busway in Northeast 2nd Drive. Again, this is a request by the city CRA to rezone a parcel of property from G general use to B2 retail commercial district.
Mr. Cordino?
Yes, sir. This is very similar to what we were doing before. Rick Emerito from the CRA is here, and he can explain the intent in a greater detail than I can. But essentially what they want to do is take this G property, which is, again, unclassified, needs to be zoned, and convert it to something that is consistent with the land use, that it's got a DMU, and that will allow the city to construct a parking lot on there with the maximum flexibility available. So we've looked at all of our options, and we've determined that the B2 classification is the best use. It's the only business classification within the DMU land use designation that allows for parking lots. So it also allows us for mixed use opportunities that are consistent with the downtown area. And so right now that site will then be able to fulfill its land use designation and have the zoning that's most flexible.
Okay, name and address to record, please.
My name is Rick Emerito. I'm the Executive Director of the Homestead CRA. I reside at 1111 Brickell Bay Drive in Miami, Florida. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. On January 22nd, the CRA board approved funding for us to construct a surface lot on what's commonly been called the arsenic lot. We've changed it to the Flagler lot. We have some conceptual designs, and we're working with a design and engineering firm. We're looking at a 222 space parking surface lot, and it's adjacent to the busway. It's located right near the heart of the downtown. We realized when we were looking at this project that we did need a zoning change to construct a surface lot. We also felt that, for those familiar with the area, directly to the east is the parcel that the city purchased for the construction of a new city hall. Now, whether or not that new city hall goes forward is an item for discussion at the council level, but we wanted to ensure that there is flexibility that down the line, if the city or the CRA so chooses to redevelop that parcel, they can as well without having to come back for another zoning change. So we wanted to be a little bit more forward-thinking as we go. Again, it's a 220 space parking lot. It also, I think it should be noted, there is some environmental issues on this lot, hence why it's been called the arsenic lot for all these years. There's some mitigation that we'd have to do. That's part of the plan. Capping it was something that Durham had approved previously. So the cap is it works well with what Durham wants us to do on that space. If they do want to develop, we will have to mitigate some of the issues, but as it stands now, a parking structure, a surface lot, really is compatible with the area.
Any questions? For the applicant, I know with the college downtown and Main Street and some of the function we've been having there, parking is really an issue. And I know that this parking around what was going to be the future city hall was including that they were purchasing these pieces of property for that situation. So to me, it obviously makes sense for that whole area. Then if City Hall ever got built, it would make more sense. And also, you've got Miami-Dade College, and they're all over the place trying to find parking as well. Plus, it kind of cleans that street up a little bit.
Yes, it does.
It's kind of sections of that they're kind of run down and stuff. Is North Flagler the edge of the CRA responsibility?
Actually, no. It's on the east side. We are bounded by Route 1.
Route 1?
US 1, yes, sir.
So you have the Pioneer Park and everything in there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, on the west side of Losner, recently, the college bought
Yes.
from you
Well, they have an option agreement, so they have the ability over the next 2 years to exercise that option.
Will that be that's going to be like a mixed use they want to do there?
Yes, I mean, what they discussed in front of council was a mixed-use medical, educational use back there.
And it would be parking, set?
Oh, they're going to have parking requirements per code there as part of whatever they want to develop there. And that would have to come back to the P&Z and to the board and to the council for approval.
So our function is basically to just approve the rezoning to B2? Okay. Any questions from the applicant, the CRA director? Welcome to the team.
Thank you.
You've now taken over that position, what, 6 months?
7, 8 months?
7 or 8 months?
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm glad to see, we saw the CRA, and about the only thing we ever saw out there was one of the streets, Maui, it got some widening and some sidewalks and stuff. So that's about the only thing we ever saw coming out of the CRA. So it's good to see some of these things, a college going in there, and now this parking situation, it's good for downtown.
The board approved about $5.3 million in infrastructure projects in the downtown in the January meeting. This is just one of them. So you'll be seeing a lot going on in the downtown in the next 2 years.
And what was really came down to the wire was the legislature voted 12-12 about funding it, and a tie meant it got approved. So that was a big deal for the mayor here a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, sir. It was a very interesting meeting.
Okay. Any other comments for the applicant, CRA?
Just a matter of sort of orientation here for this area. You referred to the proposed new city hall is to the east. To me, it appears.
I'm sorry, it is to the west. I'm sorry, it is to the west.
Okay, I'm just trying to double check it.
Yes, for the record, yes. Stand correct.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and any other comment for the applicant? Mr. Taylor, welcome. Mr. Taylor is in the house? No, open it up. Thank you for, you had a little board there you want to share. That's the pictorial of your area down there? That's the parking layout. Ah, nice. And the landscaped and everything. You'll have islands and things in there? Very nice. And then access to the busway, that'll improve that.
Yes, I'm tempted to ask them for some money.
You should. Yeah. So we'll put up a little gate, and let them.
We're also looking to have areas for the trolley stop and for valet parking.
Oh, would you? Yeah, or events or something? Good, great. That's a question.
Who would have access to the park?
Everyone, free parking. Free parking now, but if the city is good. A great problem to have.
Hey, Mr. Taylor, how are you, partner?
We have to start charging for it, but that is
For the record, Mr. Taylor has joined us at 9:37.
The parking lot is open to the general public. It would not be paid parking at the moment. If the city so chooses in the future, they can, but they'd have to pass some ordinances for that as a significant change. But again, if we ever got to the point in the downtown where parking was so scarce that we really had to charge for it, we'd have a good problem on our hands.
Yes, as far as downtown, like a week ago they had the truck gusto, and the other side, Harris, they had a rock and roll. Things going on all over the downtown area, so it's pretty exciting.
Yes, it is.
Exciting. So I'm happy that we're getting this kind of. It'd be too bad the city hall, the property where the city hall is going to be built, that they don't do something interim there. We said why not parking in there? Well, you got some other issues and stuff. We thought a flea market. Well, they want to be on a main road rather than nothing.
I do know that the council has approved sodding that, taking that fence down and putting wood fences around it, so it'll be an open field. It'll at least look more pleasing in the future.
They could make it a park.
Well, it's not zoned for a park, but they have to keep it. They're going to keep it so that it looks appealing instead of having the green fence and that sort of thing.
Looks like a construction site.
With no construction.
And it's not a construction site.
That's right, sir.
That's not good.
Okay. Any comment from the applicant? No comment. Thank you very much. Doing a great job over there.
Thank you.
It's good to see things happening. Open it up to the public. Any comment about parking lots in general? It's kind of interesting that a parking lot has to be a B2 category, and with all the, other things thrown. I guess just saying, well, if we're going to have all these other intense uses, we've got to put cars someplace, so we'll put the parking lot in there.
Correct.
So, Anyway,
Larry, excuse me, Larry rezoning it, this was
it was
talked
just
about.
general. It was just general. It did not have a B2 zone. It was general.
Oh, but this was slated for parking lot how many years ago?
Yeah, we were talking about it, said 5 years ago,
Oh,
at
5
least.
years ago, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So now we're changing the zoning
So-
such that it can be a parking lot.
You know, Mr. Chairman, piggybacking on your comment, I noticed to the west it says B1 zoning and parking, but they can't build a parking lot in a B1?
I don't think so.
Or is it because it's solely a parking lot, is that?
Well, the way we looked at it was that you could build a parking on parking, which didn't give you much flexibility. B2 gave you more flexibility to do mixed use and those types of things.
And what kind of mixed use would we be putting there then? I thought it was for a parking lot.
We're trying to preserve the ability to be flexible if in the future they wanted to do more than a lot and build a parking structure, for instance, and have the ability to do some retail on the first floor. Just wanted to be able to preserve that use, preserve that ability for them instead of having to solely pigeonhole it as just a parking surface parking lot.
But it would remain city property, is that?
Yes, unless they want to sell it to somebody. I've not heard of that.
Part of that whole plan, remember, if you remember, this land was set up where they were going to have commercial on the first level and then stuff on top, maybe even apartments and things, like mixed use. That was also part of downtown. Remember, we were talking about doing the commercial and downstairs and then residential up. So that was in the works. We talked about that 6 years ago. So now what we're doing is putting a parking lot there.
And directly across the street's B3, so it's certainly no more intense than the B3.
No.
Any other questions? No questions? We'll have a motion to approve the rezoning from G to B2.
I think it's a good idea. I'll make the motion to do it. In terms of entertainment, that parcel is one of the ugliest parcels in all of Homestead, and it has been that way for years and years and years. Perhaps the second most is across the street when you have the remains of that hotel, which looks like it's going to fall down any time now. So I think that your CRA has a lot to do. This is a good move, but it's in my mind should just be the tip of the iceberg.
So there was a motion by Dr. Raines. Do I have a second? Second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Harris seconds. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Dr. Raines?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton is absent. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Mr. Doris? Chairman Powell?
Yes. Thank you
Motion
very much.
approved.
Does that conclude?
That concludes your business.
Okay. Business from the audience. Business from Mr. Cordino.
Got nothing further, sir.
Anything you want, excitement you can report coming down the line? Anything?
well,
Everybody's saying what's going on and happening in Homestead.
We're getting a lot busier. There are, I want to say, 7 different items that are winding their way through the system. Each month we've got a handful coming through the DRC. We've had a couple more go through the DRC recently that will reach us here next month. So you can definitely see that the workload is picked up after January.
Because we talked about frequency of meeting, and at one point we're meeting twice a month and 5-6 hours. And you thought we might be going to 2 meetings a month.
I don't know if the volume is enough to warrant 2 meetings a month. You see we're out of here in less than an hour.
Yeah.
One of our issues is that people come in a hurry, and they want to do special calls. And I can't do a special call. I get the mayor or manager do that. So we instruct them to ask you all or ask those guys if they want to do it, and that's really up to you. I prefer to stick to the regular meetings, but when an applicant is really pressing to do a special call, that gets us in a situation where we have more than one meeting a month. So I try to keep that to a minimum if possible, and, to respect your time. I think we can do this at least for the foreseeable future in one meeting a month.
Like we accommodated Walmart. They wanted with that special call so they could get that in front of the city council, which they heard last week. So that was good. Anything from Mr. White, from the city attorney? Anything from board members? Mr. Welcome, we've missed you for a couple of meetings here. Actually, we probably had one, maybe two items. We were looking at special use for beer and wine for the last 3-4 meetings. It seemed like that's all we were seeing. So
we need to put the incentive back.
In beer and wine?
No, the incentive back. I mean, in other words, the $50 stipend that we used to get when we used to come in. If you put the incentive back, you might get us guys that come in.
We ran that.
Show up.
We ran that by the mayor,
And
he said he didn't. It wasn't his deal to stop it, but he didn't fix it either. So we need to hammer the mayor again.
Put the incentive, you might have a little bit better attendance.
That's it, but that would work as well. The code enforcement, they're paid. The special.
Well, the city, we pay them $75 a meeting. I mean, we used to get, we used to get
$50.
Yeah,
Twice a month. That was a big deal. I could afford Starbucks coffee.
That's right.
Now I can't buy Starbucks anymore. I got to go to McDonald's.
They sell Starbucks. McDonald's sells Starbucks.
Did you ready? Okay. Any more for Dr. Reams? I have somebody is trying to get to you on your website. Keysgate residents, and they can't get you, and they're saying, "Where's the doc?" And I said, "Well, I think he's
Still there, it's right up, it's a blog.
You might be getting. The guy has been emailing you about the HOA and things.
Yeah, so I take every email, and I answer.
His name is Jordan, Jan Jordan. I'll have
Look
him.
at I'll see if I haven't responded. I think
I just-
there may be one person that I haven't got back to yet.
If you know, Keysgate's under a master declarant, and we're all the little areas, 13 areas, we're under the master association, and a lot of those areas are built out, and we're saying if they're built out, they should get turned over to the homeowners. Well, that's not happening. The declarant wants to keep it all under his umbrella. There is a movement, there is a website that is looking to get some kind of interest in pursuing that legally, to get some of those areas released to the homeowners.
Did you talk to Paige about that?
So,
Yeah.
KeysGateResidents.com.
Yeah.
They talked to Paige.
Well, Patrick Glaber, with all the stuff going on, he said to me, "I can't wait till we get this turned over." I said, "Well, let's go. Let's turn this thing over."
Well, he says that, but what he says and what his feet do are two different things.
And for people to believe that they're subsidizing us instead of, if they were losing money, they'd drop us like a hot potato.
In 1 millisecond. They are putting between $800,000 and $1.6 million each year for doing absolutely nothing. There's no question absolutely no question in my mind. The work is being done by Miami management and not them.
But when they come in front of us back, 7, 8 years ago when we were there, and part of this was in our discussion with planning and zoning, that once it's built out, it's supposed to, who is the enforcer? I mean,
Well, here, let me clarify the issue.
Yeah.
So that it's the reason that Mr. Latner can do this is because when Keysgate was founded, they had a clause which said there would be no associations established, regardless of the status of a subdivision, until Mr. Latner's property in total on an acreage percentage was sold by 75%. So what happens now, and the most flagrant group that has been involved in this is where our chairman lives. That's in Northgate. Northgate has been completely built out for 25 years. Right now, all the Keysgate communities, which are composed of 3,900 families, 3,900 families, all 3,900 families have absolutely nothing. Now, when I say absolutely nothing, I'm not saying that it's 5% or 2%. It's absolutely nothing. The association, which is the developer owned, is composed of three people: himself, Michael Latner, his partner, Patrick Gleber, and a paid secretary whose name is Kim Green. That's it. That's who makes the decisions, and are the only legal basis for all 3,900 homes that are there and all of the subdivisions. Regardless of what a homeowner wants, he has absolutely nothing to say about it. Not one single thing. Furthermore, Mr. Latner, as he has approached the 75% acreage percentage, has it in the clause where he can go out and purchase additional property and add it on and therefore lower his percentage.
He keeps bumping.
There is no question in anyone's minds, and we have checked this with a half a dozen legal organizations, that what he has is illegal. And if you prosecuted it, it would be overturned. The problem is that there is general apathy within the 3,900 people. That's bad in itself. But worse is that whenever you assemble any number of them, which incidentally you cannot do, 3,900 is just too big to deal with. That's why we deal with the blog. But when you assemble any number of them, as little as 3 people, instead of focusing on the issue of excluding and prosecuting this clause, they begin focusing on cutting the trees, security, beauty of the community, and instead of talking about what is really at stake, they are diffuse in their discussions, and as a result, nothing happens. Mr. Latner is not scared of us. He's not scared of us because he understands the apathy and he understands the disfocus. And I can see among our 3,900 people that I don't see how it'll ever get done, and so he probably doesn't have too much to worry about. The only way it could get done is if a small group, let's say 10 people, got together and prosecuted this. Otherwise, it wouldn't. It's not going to happen. 3,900 people can't do it.
Sound like he's committed. He's the champion over there. I called him one day, and a half hour later, he was still explaining the blog and stuff. So, and I know we had people like to get to work. Any other comments? If not, let's close the meeting at 9:50. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Cordino. Thank you, Mr. White.
This is fine.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
I think they would have got, what did you say is going on there next to Frank Brown?
Extended stay. Extended stay hotel, like a Homestead suite. Yeah.